Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. Time now to turn to Tim Pool, award-winning independent journalist who is a groundbreaker, innovator in using mobile technology and social media. I believe you kind of got famous during Occupy Wall Street. You did a 21-hour-long podcast from at that time, right?
Live stream, yeah.
Live stream, cool. Tim, great to have you on.
Oh, yeah.
All righty.
Yeah.
So Tim Pool, an epic fail for mainstream media. We're talking Trump now. A colossal misunderstanding of the reality around them saw them create Tim Pot dictator quality propaganda around. What went wrong? What happened?
Oh, wow. A million things. The first important thing I think people need to realize, social media put everybody in these bubbles. There's a lot of stories coming out right now begging Mark Zuckerberg to do something about Facebook because the people on the left are convinced Facebook was allowing fake news to propagate that made these conservatives, these Trump supporters, go to Trump without realizing that they themselves are also in the exact same bubble for the left.
Okay, this is very interesting.
Yeah,
so in other words, first of all, so-called fake news is any news that is not mainstream news. And mainstream news, what we're finding out from WikiLeaks, is the news that is written by political insiders for them. It's really a state-generated news in America, the same thing that America accuses countries like Putin and Russia of doing, falsely. They themselves are purely and clearly guilty of.
Well, I think it's kind of funny that you have the Clinton camp, you've got a lot of journalists repeatedly saying Russia, propaganda. I mean, yeah, there a lot of countries engage in weird trolling stuff. But then we find out that Donna Brazil was actually feeding questions to the Hillary Clinton campaign
So how is that Mark Zuckerberg's fault? How is that Facebook's fault, according to the critics?
So what they're saying is that people are only sharing news that they want to hear and not what's actually happening. And so they're angry because this is how Trump won. But they're in the same bubble as everybody else. I think there's a lot of factors in why the media messed this up. And I think the biggest one, outside of the filter bubble issue of the social media problem, is that they're trying to chase the ratings as hard as they can. You know, I've been to something like 30+ Trump events. When stories started breaking about fights at the Trump rallies, I was getting tons of requests, you know, go there, film this, tell us what's happening. And I didn't see it. You know, I bumped into a few people I would consider to be mean or racist along the way. But for the most part, I saw tens of thousands of people who were very calm and very normal people with a few concerns about government corruption, political insiders, trade agreements. I found it rather boring. I was like, it's just a normal political event. But the TV would have you convinced that everyone at these rallies were screaming racist slurs, were trying to start fights with everybody. They were trying to get ratings. And so they chased their own tail in a circle of this crazy story about Trump supporters being crazy, like psychotic.
All right, so to follow up what you're saying there was a story that came out during the campaign, Les Moonves over there at CBS. He was at a trade convention of broadcasters, and he made the comment that Trump might be the worst thing to ever happen in America, but he's making us rich. The ratings are fantastic. So that's in other words, that's the devil's bargain. The mainstream media created Trump, so they have no right to complain now that he's president.
But yes and no. You know, they kept putting him on TV. They kept showing him because he sells. And I think Trump knows this. I think he played to it. But at the same time, there was a story a few weeks ago. It went viral because Trump Jr. was holding a clear plastic cup with a yellow liquid in it. And everyone was saying he asked for a cup of water at In-N-Out, but filled it with lemonade instead. Who cares? Seriously. No matter what they could find, they were desperate to just dig up anything all the time. And
what about the Pepe the Frog? You know, I don't think I ever fully embraced. I think the only thing I understand about Pepe the Frog is that it came out of the 4chan guys, who are the masters of creating memes. Yeah. They created Doge, I believe, the cryptocurrency. Going back before Doge, they created a lot of memes that went on to change the discussion out there. I think that the Pepe the Frog came out, but Hillary Clinton bought into it and made her look stupid.
Let me tell you a story.
Okay.
A long time ago, I'm regularly on 4chan. I don't really participate a whole lot, but it's a really interesting
thing.
So
just so people know, 4chan is basically a bulletin board. It's a bulletin. It's just a collective of people posting stuff, and that's about it. But it just has a certain.
There were a few celebrities. Okay, so let me explain Pepe. Pepe was just an inside joke that meant you were in on the joke. That's all it really was. If you were on 4chan, if you were on these other forums, 8chan or whatever, you use Pepe as a symbol of like, I understand you, and people would laugh about it. There'd be the rare Pepe, which means like someone would design, they give him a wig or something stupid. Well, some celebrities started using it. I think it was like Katy Perry and some other people posted pictures of Pepe to their social media accounts. And so the users on 4chan started freaking out, saying, oh, the celebrities are trying to, take our culture. They call them
appropriating their memes.
So and the people on 4chan call them normies. They said the normies are trying to take Pepe. So this is a few years ago. They said, from now on, Pepe is a racist meme. That way we can start attributing these celebrities to racism. And I laughed about it at the time. And then one day I wake up and I hear that Hillary Clinton, her campaign, put out a statement saying Pepe was a white nationalist racist meme, and I thought, oh my God, she fell for it. The trolls convinced a major party, a major campaign in this country to play into exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, well, that's what happens to memes. They become self-fulfilling in many ways.
Yeah.
And a couple of things you're mentioning here, which I think are very important, that are going under-reporting. This filter bubble idea. The people who are getting their news from Facebook, they can select what sources that their news is coming from, and those news sources can be self-reinforcing, and they can be very narcissistic in a lot of ways. If I am part of a club that likes to make woodworking furniture, I subscribe to a lot of woodworking magazines and news sources, and a lot of woodworkers don't like this particular party. Suddenly, that's influencing my choice beyond what the broader discussion might be.
But it's worse than that.
Okay.
So when you interact with someone on Facebook, you're telling Facebook, I like this. So the algorithm determines they're going to show you more of it. So not even by choice. So your friend, your family member will share a story saying, Donald Trump is going to make things great again. And you click like on that. Now Facebook is going to try and show you much, much more positive Donald Trump stories. If you say there's a story that says Donald Trump is a racist, and you click like on that or you comment on that, Facebook is going to try and feed you more of that. So it's pushing people further and further in each opposite direction.
Okay, so the filter bubble, beyond just the silo quality of that filter bubble, is it exacerbates your bias by feeding you additional stories that clog up your timeline with stories that you quote unquote like. And so because there's only 24 hours a day, you end up being inundated with self-reinforcing, and then you believe the image of it's pure narcissism.
So what happens when every story you see every day says Trump is wrong and everyone hates him, but then you hear one time on TV something positive about Trump? The average person's immediately going to say, no, that's got to be wrong because everything I see online says the opposite. And so journalists are not immune to this problem either, and a lot of the journalists are liberals who live in big cities. And so they end up believing their own filter bubble that, oh, Trump can't possibly win, everyone hates him. And they're so far removed because of the way we consume media these days, they have no idea what's going on in rural America.
Okay, so how much of this was the Trump camp aware of, or was he just the accidental king that stumbled into this and now he's president?
I would say a little bit of it was accidental, a little bit was opportunity, but I think he knows what he's doing.
He's like Chauncey Gardner from Being There, the famous Jerzy Kosinski short story that was made into a Peter Sellers movie about a man who talks about there will be growth in the spring. He's an imbecile, but he becomes a very highly placed guy in Washington and ends up sleeping with Shirley MacLaine, I think is the storyline of that film.
Trump posted a Pepe meme of himself. I think his campaign was very savvy with social media. I think he had good intel on what.
So you're a freaking millennial, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So what's your feeling toward Trump?
I'm different. I'm a journalist. I grew up in the hacker community.
What does your peer group think about Trump?
My peer group tends to be anti-Trump. I mean, my friends are calling me crying. They're posting on Facebook.
What is their fear?
Most people are saying, we just put a misogynist, racist demagogue in power of this country. And
would they rather go to the Mideast and get slaughtered by terrorists than have their feelings hurt?
Well, here's what I found. There's this really great meme I saw. It said, Trump is everything wrong with our culture. Hillary is everything wrong with our government. When I talk to my millennial friends, my liberal friends, their main priority, their main concern is cultural issues. Trump talked about, the sexual assault thing, the Billy Bush quote. Trump has disparaged other minority groups, and that's a problem for us. But when I ask them about foreign policy and economic issues, they don't they tend not to have a lot of information on that. When I talk to Trump supporters, they don't care, for the most part, about the cultural issues. They ignore Trump saying and doing these things because Trump is opposing these free trade agreements, because Trump is talking about policies, about immigration, and most of the Trump supporters are like, I think this policy is important. And then most of the liberal friends I have are like, Trump's culture is bad, and it's bad for us as a leader.
Well, you know, to be fair, I guess, America's youth culture tends to be the world's youth culture. So millennials, being this next generation of culture in America, they're really setting the global standard in a lot of ways. That some of the trends that appear in the streets of America end up going around the world. So there's some pride and there's a certain stake-holding mentality of this generation, and that, you know, this is our culture, which is a big part of this economy. Yeah. So maybe if they, you know, put this into perspective, if the youth culture, this millennial culture, is disrupted or destroyed by this new reactionary, by what some accounts, economic, political regime, it would be a dent to the culture. But I put it to you. It was during the worst of the Thatcher years they gave us Johnny Rotten and the Sex Pistols. So, I mean, why don't you just go and start new bands?
Here's what I've told my liberal friends. I said, you want to vote for Trump, and here's why. I don't actually support any candidate, but to play devil's advocate, no one is going to protest Hillary Clinton. No one is going to protest her foreign policy. No one is going to protest the things we do in the Middle East, and they don't. They don't when Obama does it. But people will protest Trump, and they are. Look at the protests the day after Trump was elected. I've heard estimates of 50,000 people, 100,000 people all around the country. So if you want to get people to wake up and start protesting again, well, Trump's your guy. Because now people are actually going to go out in the streets, they're going to get more politically active, and they might do something about it.
All right, so I'm really sad that we're running out of time here because this is quite fascinating. I wish we could do another segment, but we gotta say goodbye. We can do another segment? The producer's telling me we can do a second segment.
Sure.
So maybe what we'll do is say goodbye for now, and then we'll come back and do the segment, okay? Thank you.
That's good. Hey, thank you very much.
All right. And that's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report with me, Max Keiser, and Stacey Herbert. I would like to thank our guest, the one and only Tim Pool, famous social media groundbreaking dude. If you want to catch us on Twitter, it's Keiser Report. And until next time, bye, y'all.